Okay, so let's move on to something a little more cheery, shall we? So the big the big thing for this week is this could hurt a lot of people. Hopefully they get it worked out. No, I agree with you. I agree with you, Metal. I mean, it's unions, they're people, so we'll see what happens. I think they will. I think this is going to be an 11th hour type of thing, and I think that this is going to go all the way down to the last day, or very close to the last day, and then they're going to put it off again, and then we'll go and we'll move on. So I think that, but if it starts, I think if I'll say this much, if it does start, I think it's going to go on for a long time. So it's either going to get stopped short right at the edge, or it's going to go on for a long time because I don't see any middle ground there because they're not budgeting. Anyways, I do hope they get it worked out though. So moving on, let's move to the last story of the day. And this is the big story. This is why I waited to tell this one. So this week we have a big event. It's like this, as I said at the top of the show, the Super Bowl of movies. This is where all of the studios come and say, look at our work, look at our work. You know, whether it's Universal, whether it's Paramount, whether it's MGM or Amazon, whether it's Lionsgate. And we know that there are going to be a couple of premieres, right? So the biggest one is going to be The Flash. So that is going to be later on in the week. That's going to be on Wednesday. So that's going to be shown. And Sony is tonight. So let's talk about Sony real quick, because I think that don't worry about the Transformers one. That's not a Sony product. At least I don't think it is. But nonetheless, so here's the thing. I think that now I see that. I'll get to that in just a moment, Metal. So here's the thing. I think there are a couple of projects that they're going to show. So they have about an hour or an hour and a half. Okay. And that being said, I think that this is going to be one of the big things we see, right? Because this is coming out at the beginning of June. So can't believe that that's still happening, even though the writer's strike thing's kind of weird. Can't believe that that's still happening since the writer's strike thing is. Oh, okay. So Cinemacon is happening. This was pre-planned a long time ago, Metal. So this was something that was. It's not like that. You know, they were. The WGA is negotiating with whoever they're negotiating with. Okay. This is planned. This is a yearly thing. And besides that, you have all these blockbusters coming out, like Across the Spider-Verse, like Mission Impossible, like Guardians, like whatever. And I mean, well, Disney's got their own thing, but all of these, so they absolutely want to show this off. So Sony is the one that's premiering tonight. Okay. And I think that basically you're going to, so there's 3 movies I think that they're going to really want to push. Okay. This being the first one. I wouldn't be shocked if you see a full, now, obviously I'm not there. You know, I'm going to, you know, well, once the presentation happened, I'm going to do some Twitter spaces on this. So if you want to come join me on Twitter, basically that is, so I'm going to be, let's do this real quick. Let's go full screen so you guys can see this. That is going to be my Twitter handle. I am going to be doing spaces on this once the presentation for Sony is done, and we'll talk all about this. Right now, I'm only speculating about what I think could be there. So that being said, Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse will make total 4. I have no doubt about that. As a matter of fact, I'm expecting it to make more than that. Okay. Because it is kicking off June. So it's going to be huge. The Flash will run. Yeah. I totally believe this. So the Flash will be on Wednesday. So I just joined in. The Flash is going to be on Wednesday. Sony's tonight. I think that this is going to be huge for them. So the three movies I think that they're going to be showing off, okay, are, of course, Into the Spider-Verse. I think that, later on in the year, I think it's going to, I think you're going to see some of the Equalizer 3. Just a hunch. And you had another film coming out later on that, yeah. So, I mean, I think that those are going to be the two big films that are going to be. Oh, and the other one, I'm sorry, couldn't remember for a minute. It's Insidious. I think the Insidious one is going to make a premiere tonight in some capacity, even though it's not. Obviously they're not going to show the whole thing, but I do think that they're going to make some sort of premiere of that too. So, I mean, these are all the films that we've had so far this year. Whether it's Creed 3 or Cocaine Bear or Renford or John Wick 4 or, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So, but I think that this is going to, so Guardians Volume 3, total run 8 to 900 million. Yeah. I mean, I've said it before. So I'm going to say this, Kevin. So it's going to make at least 800 to $1 billion. Mission Impossible, that's the one I'm really looking forward to. That's the one I think is going to be the biggest one of the whole box office. So, yeah, I mean, you have the potential here, guys, that you could very easily have 6 to 7 $1 billion movies. That's no joke. That is no joke. This summer is going to be absolutely packed. There is one thing to say about this, though. Okay, I don't think the majority of this money is going to have to be made overseas, because the problem is, especially in June, as you guys are talking about here, June is packed. On June 2nd, you have Across the Spider-Verse. June 9th, you have Rise of the Beast. So you've got these two films here, okay? On the 16th, you have The Flash, okay? And then on the 30th, you have Indiana Jones. Now, depending on what the weekend box office does for those films, it's going to be fascinating, because that next week, that new movie that's being released is going to take away money. Now, that's not to say that other movie's not going to make money. But once you start to have 3 and 4 and 5 movies in the theater, it's going to be hard to make a lot of money. So we're kicking off, Guardians next week. Okay. And then a couple weeks later, you're going to have Fast 10. Okay. And those two movies are Little Mermaid's in there too. And those two movies are going to be relatively safe. But then you have, like I said, you have June. So let's say the movie makes $130 million, $100 million. Now, usually you want between a 40 to 50% drop. Okay. That being said, unless it has legs like Mario. But that being said, at that point, what ends up happening is that unless it's going to drop quite significantly, like a 70%, like Ant-Man did. Okay, that made 108 million opening weekend and then made 30 some odd million the next weekend. I don't think it'll do that. But if it drops 50%, it's still making $50 million. So it's going to be hard. Those first 2 weeks are going to be so critical for that, because once you get to July 1st, okay, you're going to have, this is going to be the first time you're going to go to your box office, your movie theater, and it's going to be packed full of movies, blockbusters. Guardians of the Galaxy, Fast 10, Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible. All of these movies are going to be in there at the same time. Okay? Barbie, Oppenheimer. These movies are all going to be there in the same time, which means something else. They're not. When a big movie comes out, like Guardians, for example. If you go to your Regal app or your AMC app right now, my guess is that number one, you're going to be able to purchase tickets, but number two, it's going to take out quite a few theaters. Once these movies start to come out, it's only going to get a couple theaters. So let's say you have a 10 screen theater, okay? What's going to end up happening is that you're only going to have so many movies, okay, and so many slots. So which movies do you put where? Okay, that's going to be fascinating too. So I agree with you guys on all of this stuff. It's going to make a boatload of money, but it's all going to be front loaded. It's all going to be opening weekend and that second weekend, because as the new film opens, it's not going to make as much money moving down the road. And I think that's important to really talk about, because it's one of those things where, you know, you have a lot of money that's coming in, and so I mean, you have a lot of money coming in essentially, and that's going to be the important thing. So I mean, like I said, these are all the movies that came out this year. Okay, no, these movies have all come out. Okay, and some have done very well, and some that have done not so well. I mean, Renfield didn't make that much money this week. Okay, but Creed 3, you know, made $300 or $400 million, you know, total. So it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be very fascinating. And Guardians is going to kick the whole thing off in 2 weeks. And I can't wait.